The night was cold on the burned plains of Pharos 5. Smoke drifted through the broken trees like ghosts, carrying the smell of fire, metal, and sorrow. The ground was still hot in some places, glowing red under the black sky. And in the middle of this quiet destruction walked a mother named Lara. Her steps were slow, weak, and heavy. She carried a wrapped bundle close to her chest, holding it as if her heart was inside it. Her long gray skin was covered in dust and burns, and her eyes were full of tears that refused to stop. Every breath she took hurt, but the pain inside her was worse than any wound. The child in her arms, the tiny infant she had named Rin, did not move, did not cry, did not breathe. Lyra had run through battle and fire trying to save him, but she had reached only silence. Now she was alone. The war between humans and her people had ended hours ago, but the land still shook with distant explosions. The sky still flashed with strange light from broken machines. But none of that mattered to her anymore. Her whole world was the small, silent child she held against her chest. She found a quiet place under a fallen metal tower. The tower was twisted and half buried in the soil, forming a small shelter from the wind. Lyra sank to her knees, her legs finally giving up. She placed the bundle down gently, as if she was afraid even the ground could hurt him. "Rin? My little star?" she whispered. Her voice cracked. She covered her mouth, trying not to scream, trying not to break. She touched the child's face, waiting for any sign of life. But nothing happened. For a long moment, she only sat there, holding her child's hand. Then very slowly, she began to dig. There were no tools, no shovel, only her hands. She pushed aside dirt, rocks, broken metal, and pieces of ash. Her fingers bled, but she did not stop. She dug harder, faster, shaking with grief. Tears fell into the shallow hole she was making. Every handful of dirt felt like losing him all over again. She had always imagined Rin growing strong, laughing, learning to walk, holding her hand. She imagined him becoming a great warrior or a gentle healer. She imagined him surviving this cruel world. But now, she could only imagine laying him in the ground. High above her, on a destroyed cliff edge, a human soldier named Evan Carter slowly climbed over broken stones. His armor was cracked, his helmet was dented, and the bright visor flickered with faulty light. He was tired, bruised, and alone. His squad had been separated from him during the battle, and he was trying to return to base. His scanner beeped softly in his helmet. Life detected. Weak. Near death. Distance: 140 meters. Evan stopped walking. There shouldn't have been any survivors here. This area was hit hard. Machines exploded, fires spread through the villages, and he had seen nothing alive for hours. But the scanner didn't lie. He checked the signal again. Infant, non-human, temperature, critical. A baby. Evan's heart tightened. A memory flashed into his mind, his little sister. 2 years old, in a hospital bed, pale, weak, machines around her. The feeling of helplessness. The feeling of failure. He never forgot that day. And now, somewhere in the ruins, another child was dying. He moved forward quickly, ignoring the pain in his leg. He jumped over broken beams, past burning walls, and slid down a slope of blackened soil. The signal grew stronger. 60 meters. 40 meters. 20 meters. Then he saw her. A lone alien woman kneeling in the dirt. Her back was shaking. Her hands covered in mud and blood. She was digging a small grave beside a tiny wrapped shape. Evan froze. At first, he thought the woman was harming the child. Then he realized the truth, the awful, heartbreaking truth. She thought the baby was already dead. He raised his scanner. The weak heartbeat still flickered on the screen. Slow, but present. The child was alive. Barely, but alive. Evan stepped forward. He had to help. He couldn't lose another child, not again. Not while he could still fight for one more life. But as he approached, the woman suddenly turned her head. Her eyes widened when she saw the human armor. Her expression changed from grief to terror to anger. She grabbed a sharp piece of metal from the ground and held it like a knife. Evan stopped, lifting his hands slowly. He didn't know her language, but he could see her fear, her pain. And he could also see her misunderstanding. She thought he had come to take the child. She thought he had come to finish the killing. The baby inside the cloth made the smallest, weakest sound. A tiny gasp, barely there. But both of them heard it. Lyra froze. Evan froze. Their eyes met, and for the first time, they both understood one thing. The child was still alive. The night wind blew softly over the ruins. But in that small, quiet space, everything stood still. One mother digging a grave. One human fighting fate. One infant hanging between life and death, and a single question rising like a shadow. Would they save the child together? Or destroy each other first? Evan did not move. He kept his hands raised in the air, palms open, showing he carried no weapon pointed at her. His helmet lights flickered softly, painting the ground blue. Lyra held her sharp metal piece tightly, her arms shaking from exhaustion and fear. But her eyes full of fire, pain, and warning never left him. The baby gave another weak breath. That sound changed everything. Evan felt something break open inside him, hope. Real, fragile hope. The alien mother looked shocked, as if she could not trust her own ears. She pressed her hand against the blanket, feeling for a heartbeat. When she felt the tiny rhythm, she gasped and pulled the child close to her chest. Her tears started again, but this time they were mixed with disbelief. Evan slowly pointed at the infant. Not moving forward. Not threatening. Just pointing. Lyra growled low, warning him to stay away. She did not understand his intentions. She did not trust him. Not after what humans had done to her village. Not after the fire, the machines, the screams. Evan understood that. He understood her fear, but he also understood something she didn't. The child did not have much time. He lowered himself slowly to one knee, making sure she saw every movement. Then he placed his weapon on the ground and pushed it away. The rifle slid across the dirt and stopped several meters from him. Lyra watched carefully. Her breathing was fast. Her grip on the metal shard tight. Then Evan tapped the side of his armor. A small medic device slid out from a compartment. It glowed white with a soft hum. He held it in open hands so she could see it clearly. A healing tool. A life support patch. Something that could help the baby. But she did not know that. Lyra stepped backward, shielding Rin with her own body. She shook her head again and again, whispering words Evan could not understand. To her, human technology meant destruction, not healing. Evan tried to speak anyway. "Let me help the baby," he said quietly. She flinched at his voice. The language meant nothing to her, but the tone gentle, calm, careful made her hesitate for a brief second, but only for a second. A sudden explosion echoed across the ruins, making the ground tremble. A distant machine fell from the sky in flames. Lyra gasped in fear and pressed herself closer to the rocks. She looked around with panic, thinking more humans were coming. Evan checked his scanner. A red signal blinked. Multiple drones approaching. Enemy. Not human. Not alien. But auto drones, war machines left running without control. They would kill anything that moved. Evan swallowed hard. Time was running out. The drones would reach their location in minutes. If the baby was still outside when they arrived, the child would not survive. He stepped forward. Just one step. Lyra instantly raised her weapon again, trembling with fear and determination. She hissed a warning sound. Her eyes shone with pure desperation. She would fight him. She would kill him. She would die trying to protect her child, even if the child needed his help. Evan looked directly into her eyes through his cracked visor. For the first time, he understood the truth. She wasn't trying to attack him. She was trying to protect the last thing she loved in this world, and she would not trust a human easily. But he couldn't give up. He tapped his chest again. This time, he pointed at himself, then at the baby, and placed a hand over his own heart. A simple message. A human message. A universal message. Please. I care. Lyra stared at him, not her breathing slowed. Her tears stopped. Her mind raced. She looked at the medic tool. She looked at Evan's empty hands. She looked at the weak rise and fall of her baby's chest. The child's breath was getting slower. She could lose him again. Her fingers shook. Her heart pounded. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to protect her child from everything, including the human in front of her. But she also wanted her child to live. Evan took one slow step closer. Lyra opened her mouth to warn him, but then she heard something else. A mechanical buzzing, sharp, metallic, growing louder. Evan's visor flashed a warning. Drones, 200 meters. Approaching fast. He turned his head and saw dark shapes rising above the hills. Death was coming. He looked at Lyra again. She looked at him. For the first time, fear united them. Evan's voice shook with urgency. Please, let me save the baby. She did not understand the words, but she understood the fear in his voice. She understood the noise of the drones. She understood the tiny heartbeat in her arms fading again. Lyra closed her eyes. She took one long, broken breath. Then she lowered her weapon, just a little. Just enough. Evan exhaled in relief and stepped forward. But the drones screamed across the sky, firing red lights into the ground nearby. That the war was not done with them. Not yet. The drones moved like shadows across the burning sky, their red lights scanning the ground for any sign of movement. They were cold machines, programmed to finish the war, even after both sides had fallen silent. They did not care if someone was a soldier or a mother. They did not care if the victim was a child. They killed anything alive. Evan's visor beeped again, loud and sharp. Warning. Enemy fire incoming. Lyra heard the same threat in the air. She hugged Rin close to her chest and stepped backward, her legs shaking. Dust blew across the ground as the drones came closer, their engines cutting through the night like angry insects. Evan moved fast. He ran to the side and grabbed his rifle from the ground. Lyra gasped, thinking he was aiming at her again. She lifted the metal shard with trembling hands. Evan didn't point the gun at her. He pointed it at the sky. A drone swooped down and fired a laser line across the ground. It hit a rock behind Lyra, sending sparks in every direction. She ducked, shielding the baby with her body. Evan fired back. Bright blue shots burst from his rifle, hitting the drone's wing. The machine spiraled away, crashing somewhere behind the ruins. Another drone came from the left. Evan shot again, but the drone dodged. Its red eye locked onto him. Evan pushed Lyra aside, just as a blast hit the ground. Where she had stood, she stumbled and fell to her knees, clutching Rin tightly. For the first time, she realized the truth. The human was not trying to hurt her. He was trying to save them. But fear still lived inside her bones. Her breaths were sharp and quick. She stared at Evan with confusion, pain, and something new, something unfamiliar. It looked like trust, but she was not ready to accept it yet. Evan ran back to her. His armor sparked where the blast had hit, and he limped slightly, but he kept moving. Get down, he shouted, pointing to a piece of broken metal that could act as cover. She couldn't understand the words, but she understood his urgency. She crawled behind the metal sheet, holding the baby tight. Evan slid beside her, firing through a gap. 2 drones circled overhead, searching for a clear shot. Lyra's hand shook as she looked at Evan's medic tool, still glowing softly in his hand. She remembered the tiny heartbeat she felt earlier. Weak, fading. The baby needed help. Real help. Evan turned to her. Their eyes met again. He pointed at the baby, then pointed at the medic tool, then placed a hand over his heart. Like before, Lyra felt her throat tighten. She looked down at Rin's small face. His skin was pale. His breaths were thin. Her heart clenched in fear. Another drone fired. The blast shook the metal cover, making sparks rain over them. If she waited any longer, her child would not survive. Her hand moved slowly, carefully. She lowered the metal shard and opened the blanket just enough to let Evan see the baby. Evan's eyes widened. Relief and determination flashed across his face. He reached into his pouch and pulled out the medic patch, a small, glowing rectangle. He moved slowly. No sudden motions. No threats. He wanted her to see every part of what he was doing. Lyra watched, heart pounding. She did not know if she could trust him. She did not know if human tools would heal or harm. She did not know if she was making the greatest choice of her life, or the biggest mistake. But she knew one thing. Her child was dying in her arms. And this human was the only one who could help. She gave a small nod, a tiny one, almost invisible. But Evan saw it. He carefully pressed the medic patch to the baby's chest. The device glowed brighter. A soft humming sound filled the air. Rin's breathing grew a little stronger. Still weak, but improving. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Her chest rose and fell in shaky breaths. She looked at Evan. Again, he had saved her child. But the moment of peace lasted only seconds. A drone dropped lower, almost touching the ground. Its eye turned red. Its weapons charged. Evan pulled Lyra and the baby down just as a laser beam shot past their heads. The ground exploded behind them. He grabbed her arm gently, but firmly, and pointed toward the valley below. They had to run. They had to escape, both of them. Together. The war had forced them to be enemies, but fate had forced them to become something else. 2 souls protecting one tiny life against a world that wanted to destroy it. And now, whether they liked it or not, they needed each other to survive. The drones circled above them like hungry metal beasts, their red eyes sweeping the ground. Every second they waited meant danger. Every moment wasted meant the baby's life could slip away again. Evan knew it. Lyra felt it. They had no time to argue. No time to fear each other. They only had time to run. Move! Evan shouted, pulling Lyra gently but firmly. She didn't understand the word, but she understood his tone. She lifted Rin close to her chest and followed him, both of them crouching low as they ran behind broken metal walls and fallen machines. A drone fired at their feet, spraying dirt into the air. Lyra stumbled, almost falling. Evan grabbed her arm and steadied her. She looked at him in surprise, breath shaking. He didn't let go. They ran together. Behind them, the drone screamed and fired again. Blue and red light flashed across the ground, making long shadows jump like ghosts. One blast hit a stone wall near Lyra, breaking it into pieces. She cried out and shielded the baby with her own body. Evan turned and fired at the drone, attacking her. His shot hit the machine's sensor, making it fly backward in confusion. But more drones were coming. Too many. The sky looked like a swarm of metal insects, all hunting them, all ready to kill without a single thought. Evan's visor showed a glowing map. A tunnel, a collapsed bunker entrance. 50 meters away, over there, He called. Lyra didn't understand the word, but she saw where he pointed. She nodded and ran with him. The baby weakly breathed against her chest. The medic patch glowed with a soft pulse, trying to keep Rin alive. Another drone swooped low and fired at Evan. The blast hit his shoulder armor, sending him spinning to the ground. His rifle flew from his hands. Lyra gasped. He groaned and tried to stand. The armor was smoking, and the left arm wouldn't move. His face twisted in pain, but he forced himself up. The drone flew in again for the final shot. Before it could fire, Lyra acted. She didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She didn't fear. She jumped in front of Evan and slashed the drone with a sharp metal shard she carried. Her attack struck a cable under its eye. Sparks burst out. The drone spun wildly, crashing into the dirt. Evan stared at her dot. She had saved him. The one who was supposed to be her enemy. She had protected him the same way she protected her child. For a moment, something warm flickered between them. Understanding, respect, silent promise. We fight together. But there was no time for words. More drones flew closer. Scanning the area, Evan grabbed his rifle with his working arm and fired at one. It jerked sideways, but didn't fall. Lyra grabbed Evan's injured arm and pulled him toward the bunker. They ran again, side by side. Every blast behind them sounded like a thunderstrike. Every breath they took was a fight. Every second they managed to stay alive was a miracle. At last, they reached the broken bunker entrance. A huge metal door lay twisted on the ground. The inside was dark, cold, and half flooded with shadows. But it was shelter. It was their only hope. Evan pushed Lyra inside first. She ducked behind a large collapsed pillar. Evan followed and fired a few more shots to push the drones back. Inside the bunker entrance, the wind was gone. The world was dark and quiet except for the baby's weak breathing. Evan collapsed to his knees, holding his injured shoulder. Lyra stared at him. The human who saved her child. The human she just saved from death. The human who now sat injured because he chose to protect them both. She moved closer, slowly, afraid he might pull away, but he didn't. She placed her hand on his good arm. A small, gentle touch. Evan looked at her. For the first time, she spoke a word he understood, not in his language, but in a voice filled with gratitude. Thank you. Her voice shook. Her eyes were wet. Her child still breathed, and this human was the reason. Evan nodded. Breathing hard. We're not safe yet, he said softly. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the feeling. The drones were still outside. The baby was still weak. The bunker was their shelter, but maybe also their trap. They had escaped death for now. But the fight was not over. Not yet. Together, they pushed deeper into the dark bunker, hoping to find safety or one more disaster waiting in the shadows. The bunker air was cold and still. Dust floated like tiny stars in the dark halls as Lyra and Evan moved inside, step by slow step. The outside world, the fire, the drones, the screams felt far away now. Only the echo of their breathing filled the empty space. Lyra held Rin close, her arms trembling with fear and hope at the same time. The medic patch on the baby's chest gave off a weak glow, but Rin's tiny breaths were still slow and shallow. The child needed real medical support soon, or he would fade again. Evan walked beside her, breathing heavily. His injured arm hung uselessly at his side. His armor sparked with broken circuits. But he pushed himself to keep going. He wasn't going to stop now. Not when they were so close. His visor light swept across the bunker walls, showing broken pipes, cracked screens, and old human machines. Most were dead. None worked. But deep inside the bunker, there might be something left. A small healing pod. A medical capsule. Anything. They turned a corner, and Evan suddenly stopped. There, in the center of a collapsed room, covered in dust, but still glowing with a faint blue light, a working human medical pod. Evan almost laughed in disbelief. Lyra stared at the machine with wide eyes. She didn't know what it was. She didn't understand how it worked. But she saw the way Evan looked at it with hope. He pointed at the pod, then at the baby. His voice shook with urgency. Put him in. It will save him. Lyra didn't know the words, but the meaning was clear. The machine could help. Maybe even heal completely. She stepped forward slowly, as if afraid the pod would disappear if she moved too fast. The doors of the pod were cracked, but still functional. Evan pressed a button, and they opened with a soft hiss. Inside, warm blue light glowed. Lyra hesitated. This was human technology. The same humans who destroyed her village. The same machines that killed her people. The same war that took everything from her. But she looked down at Rin. Her child. Her last piece of family. Her last piece of hope. He needed this. He needed life. And this machine, the machine built by her enemy, was offering it. Very slowly, with shaking hands, she placed the baby inside the pod. The moment Rin touched the soft bed inside, the lights brightened. The pod scanned his small body. A soft sound filled the air. Steady, calm, safe. Evan touched the control panel. The healing process began. Blue light wrapped around Rin like a warm blanket. A soft heartbeat sound echoed from the machine. The baby's chest rose higher now, stronger, clearer. Lyra covered her mouth as tears fell again. Her child was alive, truly alive. The pod hummed. Healing tissues, repairing breath, stabilizing heartbeat. The machine worked quickly, using its last reserve of power. The glow grew brighter, then dimmed softly. Then the pod opened. Rin lay there, breathing calmly. His face warm with color again. His fingers moved. His eyes fluttered. Lyra let out a cry, half joy, half disbelief, and lifted him into her arms, holding him close. Her tears fell on his small forehead. Her baby lived. She looked at Evan with pure gratitude. Her voice broke as she said the only human word she had learned. Thank you. Evan smiled softly, exhausted and pale from his injury. I'm glad he's safe, he whispered. She touched his shoulder gently. She saw the pain on his face. His wound was serious. He had fought for her child's life and nearly lost his own. She stepped toward him and nodded to the pod. His eyes widened. No. It's the last power. Use it for the boy. But Lyra shook her head. Her gaze was firm, strong, full of respect. Saved him, she said in her broken voice. Now, I save you. She helped him into the pod, and Evan didn't resist. He was too tired to argue, too hurt to stand. As the pod closed around him, blue light filled the room again. Lyra watched quietly as the machine worked. It healed his wounds, sealed the burns on his shoulder, and slowed his breathing to a calm, steady rhythm. When the pod finally opened, Evan stepped out weak, but alive. He nodded to her. She nodded back. No words. No language. Just understanding. Outside, the drones still searched. The war machines still hunted. But inside this broken bunker, something impossible had happened. A human soldier saved an alien child. An alien mother saved a human warrior. Two enemies became protectors. Lyra looked at Evan and then at her child. Together, she said softly. Evan smiled. Together. And with that, they prepared to leave the bunker, not as enemies, but as survivors. As guardians of one small life. As proof that even in war, humanity could rise above hate. A true HFY moment. Humanity, at its best, saved more than a life that night. It built a bridge between two worlds.